It's my favorite time of the month, and it's collection update time. We have over 20 movies here, Blu-rays and 4Ks. There might be even close to 30. Two of them are DVDs. The very first of the DVDs we have is the Al Pacino Dog Day Afternoon movie. Now, from what I understand, this movie was always based on a true story. I'm not really sure if that's true or not, but it's something that I was always told. So it might be loosely based, or it might be 100%. I'm not really sure on that. But something that, even though I haven't revisited it in over 20 years, picking this up, looking forward to it, but I kind of feel that the 4K on this is coming out soon. And if you haven't seen it, it's kind of taboo subject matter. It's stuff that makes people feel uncomfortable to talk about, which is probably why this movie, even though it gets bought and it gets put on shelves, people don't really talk about it because it's kind of uncomfortable. So Al Pacino's character, he's gay and he's trying to get money for his partner's sex change, and so they rob a bank, and it's pretty epic story, but that's not what the entire movie is. The entire movie is the bank robbery, and so you see all that, and it's just a kind of a, I don't know, for me it always made me think. It's just an interesting film. Like, what lengths would you go to for something you believed in? And I don't know, it's just an interesting watch. The next one here is something I absolutely love. I'm not really sure why I never had picked up the Blu-ray, but it's a movie that I love having this in the collection now, and we're talking about The Bone Collector. I would like to have this on either Blu-ray or 4K, but having to order it online, paying some of the higher prices, picking this up for $1 just felt like a no-brainer for a movie that I haven't seen it in like 20 years. So looking forward to diving back into this one. But if you have not seen this movie, it's pretty epic. So at the time when it came out, it was also about the time that Christopher Reeve had had his accident. And so I don't know if this movie was ever written for him in mind, or because that was pretty much on everybody's thought process was, his accident. And so this one, Denzel Washington's character plays a cop. He was a really good investigator, super smart, wrote books, but he's in a bed. He's quadriplegic, very similar injury to Christopher Reeve had. Then he meets Angelina Jolie's character, who's a rookie cop, but apparently she has like a really good eye, and she clears the scene. She finds some clues that most people just kind of would have overlooked. And so together, they're tracking down this bone collector and this criminal that's been doing this for quite a long time and leaving these clues. Eventually, it kind of leads back to Denzel Washington's character, and he becomes the target. And it's just a really enjoyable movie.
This crime scene was staged. There's no question the perp knows forensics.
This is another one that, when it came out, I knew I wanted it, but it was never a day one purchase for me. So it's something that I remember liking 20-something years ago, revisiting it recently on this 4K. I thought it was pretty amazing. I don't know the exact details of what this was shot on, but it came out in the 90s, and so we're going with it was probably shot on film, and it really looks great. So there's definitely been some DNR, some scrubbing, because any of the dark scenes, there's no film grain, there's none of that stuff. But it wasn't jarring to a point where it was very frustrating. I just noticed that other movies that came out around this time have that film look, have that grain. This one didn't. And my TV does have a lot of bells and whistles to take whatever image I have. I can put in an old VHS tape and it kind of upscales it a little bit. So the image that's even on here might look a little different on a different television. But we're talking about Carlito's Way. I picked this up on the sale. Getting it half off was just a no-brainer because I like the movie, but it was just saving money, and I knew it would come around eventually, but I'm glad I was able to get the big chunky box because I like them. They look better on the shelf. I love the artwork. And for me, I don't need all the extra stuff on all the movies, but certain ones I think are worth it. And a movie like this, I do like having the extras. So you have your simple artwork there. But then the J card that it comes with, I'm not a huge slipcover guy. I tell people all the time, but these J cards, I actually fold them up and I stick them right inside the box so they don't get lost. It's nice to have that extra information, but it also has the barcode usually. So this one has a barcode on the back. But a lot of these chunky box sets don't have a barcode that's not already on this like J card. So saving that, and the reason that's important is because the app I use to keep the collection under control and what I have, and so I'm not buying doubles, it scans the barcodes. And so it's nice to keep those J cards. So I just get in the habit of putting everything right inside the box, and then that way I don't have to worry about the J card kind of sticking and flopping and getting ruined or wrecked, because I just like the way this sits on the shelf. And a lot of times, a lot of companies do a little bit of extra artwork on the back. Now this one's just plain black, but when you peel off the J card, sometimes you get something cool underneath. Now, this one here is something that I saw it when it came out, and it's something that I thought was just kind of fun. It's a mediocre movie. It's nothing to write home about. It was never a day one purchase, but I happened to see that it had a 4K, and I thought it was a good price, and so then I picked it up, and we're talking about Keeping Up with the Joneses. Now, revisiting this one, I think the 4K on it's great. This is a newer movie, so I'm pretty sure it was shot digitally. It's going to look good anyway, but if anything, this is just a fun ride. You know, you have Zach Galifianakis, Ilsa Fisher, Gal Gadot, John Hamm, and if for anything, you're going to buy this movie, you have a scene with Gal Gadot and Ilsa Fisher in a dressing room in their underwear, and that might be worth picking this up for most people anyway. And you have these boring couple that just kind of, seem like they're in a rut, and their neighbors move in and they're pretty much spies, and it's just kind of a fun ride, and they drag them on this adventure, and it's just always fun. I liked this movie. I liked it when it came out, and I liked revisiting it, and I highly recommend this one. Now, the next two here are some movies that I was a little disappointed by, but it's kind of my fault, and I'm going to get into that. I don't usually do the worst of lists. I think those are disingenuous. I think that those are brought on because people like drama, and they like to click on what's the worst, and it has created this whole funnel of people just saying things are bad when clearly they're not, or it's subjective. So for me, this one here is the first one, and I felt duped. So I watched another person review this movie, and at no point did they mention anything that was actually worth it. So the takeaways I got from this movie, I did not hear from that reviewer, and that was kind of unfortunate. And I don't know if it's because of cancel culture or the reason, whatever. So I bought this movie, and we're talking about challengers here. Now, this is something that I hate to say that I kind of not really regretted, but for me, this movie was fine. It was a one and done, and that's it. I didn't need to own this movie. It has some positives, but the reality is, I look at the back, it says rated R, language throughout, some sexual content, and graphic nudity. Well, the graphic nudity is in a male locker room with full frontal male nudity.
Hey, I don't need violence to enjoy a movie, just so long as there's a little nudity.
There was nudity?
I meant female nudity.
For this movie here, there's a scene where Zendaya's character is coming on to both of these friends, and there's this implication that they're going to have a threesome. That starts, they all start kissing, they do that, and she kind of backs away, they start kissing, and it's not like made for comedic purposes or just a thing, and then they linger on that, and they keep going while she watches with an evil smirk. And it was just an odd thing, and I don't mind it, it's whatever, but that was never ever said or mentioned or talked about. And again, I don't know if it's because of the cancel culture or the fear of being canceled, but this movie, again, it's something that it was a one and done. I didn't need to own this movie. It's fine. You do have Zendaya in a see-through bra at one point, so if that's what you need, then go ahead. But the positives on this, other than it's kind of because it's not a remake or a reboot, and this is something that I hate to dog on it because it is a different story, and it's kind of something that takes a chance. I also feel that this whole entire movie's premise was based off an old Abercrombie and Fitch advertisement I saw years ago, which is the same thing. It was a girl and two guys in this like seeming love triangle, and they all had tennis rackets on a tennis court. So that's what this entire movie is. It's this love triangle between these two friends and this girl, played by Zendaya. The movie is nothing more, nothing less. I don't think it makes you think. I don't think it does anything other than bring in a lot of homoeroticism, which again is fine. It's not new. It's been done before. This doesn't even shake up taboos or anything like that. So for me, I think the movie is a very mediocre, slow burn. That's how I felt about it. And so this is not going to be staying in the collection. On the positives, I love the movie poster. I think it's really great. I love the cover art and the fact that when you take this out, there is no big ugly banner. So you have the big ugly banner here, but you don't here. So I think there are some positives. And if this is the type of movie for you, I get slow burn type movies aren't for everybody, but they are something that I don't mind watching, but I wasn't even told that this kind of felt like it's slow burn drama. This felt like more of something that was geared towards like teenagers, but with adult subject matter. It's kind of how I felt. That's how I felt about the writing. It's how I felt about the entire experience watching this film. The one thing that the other reviewer that watched this movie had said was during the different conflict scenes where people are arguing or there's some amped up conflict, the music kind of played in. It was extra loud. And I didn't feel that way. I felt that the music was heavy for the scene and done rightfully so. I think it was done very, very well. I didn't think the music overpowered the scene. It wasn't that loud. It wasn't like that, but it definitely was kind of, you know, just kind of a heavy piece, which I thought was really nice touch. I thought artistically, I think this is a well-made film, but revisiting it, it's just not there. There's no need to rewatch this movie for me. Now, the next one here is something that it's my fault, 100%. I know that I did not like this movie in the beginning, and it's not that I hate the movie. It's well made. I understand why everybody else likes it, but I'm not a disaster film kind of guy. Those are also one and done movies for me, and I've seen this movie multiple times. I saw it when it first came out. I gave it a second chance a few years later, and it's one of my wife's favorites. So now it gets revisited in the house often, where I don't catch the entire movie, but I catch bits and pieces every now and again. And it's never been on my favorites because for me, it's a one and done. And we're talking about Twister. Now, I bought it for two reasons. One, she likes the film. She did specifically say we didn't need to upgrade the Blu-ray and she didn't need the 4K. But then I was sold on this is the best Atmos movie in the entire world. This is so great. Mind-blowing Atmos. And while I agree, the opening scene I have an amazing Atmos. So I have way more than a sound bar. I have like 9 speakers, the subwoofer, the big giant surround system, and the opening scene is amazing. But I also thought that was kind of good on my old Blu-ray. I didn't really see like the justification for buying this movie because the Atmos was good. Because after that first scene, while it was okay, I kind of didn't notice the rest of it. Like the rest of the time, it kind of fell in the backside. And I don't have the up-firing speakers. I actually have speakers in the ceiling, so you're getting hit with speakers from up top. That I didn't notice, but I have some older Blu-rays that have rain scenes, and that rain comes from the ceiling, and that makes sense. And I didn't really notice that on here. And I'm not sure if it's just because my love for the film really isn't there, and I just kind of tuned it out. But only the beginning is where I really noticed the heavy Atmos and like the earth-shattering, the mind-blowing Atmos. That's the only experience that I had was that opening scene. But like I said, I got that on the Blu-ray. So this is, again, we're keeping it because my wife loves the movie, but I felt duped into buying this because everyone was selling me on the Atmos. And while it has that track, I didn't feel that it lasted through the entire movie. Now, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, it might just be the fact that I don't love the film all that much, so maybe I just kind of stopped paying attention, but that's how I felt about it. The next movie here is something that I absolutely love. I think it's great. I had this on VHS only, and so I'm not sure why I never had the Blu-ray, but revisiting it every single year, it was time for an upgrade, and then Groove had this on their website for like $13 or $15, and I thought that was fine, but then they have an eBay store, and so it still came from groove.com, but it was through eBay, and this was only like $10 on their eBay store, and it was Deep Blue Sea. Absolutely love this film. Think it's great. Now, it did come with an Echo case, so I already upgraded the case to give it something more solid because those Echo cases are just absolute garbage. But now this one here, if you haven't seen it, just a fun time. You have Sam Jackson, Thomas Jane, Michael Rappaport, Stellan Skarsgård. As far as shark movies go, this here for me is top notch. Now, everyone loves Jaws. It gets talked about all the time, but I'd watch this before I'd watch Jaws any day. And I don't dislike Jaws. I have it. I rewatch it every single year. I even have a Jaws shower curtain in my bathroom. But this one here, I just think is a more fun film and something that I really do enjoy watching. Now, the special effects, I don't think they've aged as much, but I don't think they're bad either. I think this is just an all-around good time and really fun on the Blu-ray. Will you notice any of those special effects if this ever gets put on 4K? maybe you'll notice them a little bit better. But I always did like this film, and going back to it is just really good. And a lot of people compare this to like Jurassic Park, because that's pretty much what it is. They have this science facility that's kind of underwater, and they're doing experiments on these sharks. And this shark, gets super smart and decides to attack. And it does. It attacks wildly, breaks in. The entire facility starts to get flooded with water. Sharks are in the hallways. And this right here pretty much is just Jurassic Park inside of a underwater science facility, and I just enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Now here's something that I just picked up recently, trying to get some more horror comedies in my collection, and this is something I saw when it first came out, but on the revisit, I realized why I didn't have the movie originally. Now I don't dislike the film. This would probably be my least favorite, but I still like it. I like it enough to keep it and revisit this movie, and we're talking about Freaks of Nature. Now this is something that I thought it was great. I thought it was a great premise. This movie here, you have this small town. You have Dennis Leary's in this film. Who's in there? There's so many people are in this film. I'm gonna have to read off the list, because you have Nicholas Braun, Mackenzie Davis, Josh Fadham, Joan Cusack, Bob Odenkirk, Patton Oswalt, Ed Westwick, Vanessa Hudgens, and Dennis Leary in this film. You have this small town, and pretty much their claim to fame is this rib sandwich, and it's owned by Dennis Leary's character, who's kind of a jerk. He's also the richest guy in town, because he's the one who owns the rib factory. You see how the entire town kind of interacts with each other, on top of there's vampires and there's zombies also living in the town. Everybody works and goes to school and kind of gets along. There's really no issues until aliens show up. And the aliens are really only there for one reason, and it's to get something out of the town. And I don't want to really spoil it, but they're there for that one reason. And I just enjoyed it. It had some really good comedic moments, great one-liners. But for some reason, it didn't hit it home for me, and I just like some of my other horror comedies a little bit better. But again, this I think is fun enough to keep, and I'm going to revisit this again. Maybe it's going to grow on me a little bit more. And Vanessa Hudgens as a vampire, you really can't go wrong. So the next one here is something I had on DVD, and sometimes with those early 2000s films, one of the thoughts is this going to be able to look good on a Blu-ray? Some of the older special effects, especially CGI, tends to kind of not hold up when it gets put on a Blu-ray, and you notice that. I mean, some of my favorite movies have that dilemma, like Blade, those early CGI at the end of the movie. It was noticeable on the VHS. Spawn is another one. It was noticeable on the VHS, and so as you've upgraded, it just got more noticeable. Now, this is something I don't feel that happened. I thought it was pretty good. I think the special effects kind of held up, and that early CGI, I think, was fine. We're talking about the Ben Affleck movie, Paycheck. This is something that also had Aaron Eckhart and Uma Thurman. This is just a great film. Something, as far as sci-fi flicks go, has that kind of Sixth Sense thing. Once you know how the story goes, the revisability isn't there for them. But for me, this one is. Now, I don't revisit it that often because, like I said, once you kind of know what's going on, all the mystery is gone and the rewatchability kind of goes out the window. So this is something that I have revisited pretty much every 4 to 5 years. And getting this on the Blu-ray, revisiting it, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was pretty good. And I think this is one of the cheaper ones I picked up. This might have been in like the $5 to $10 range, and so this was totally worth picking up. But if you haven't seen this one, Ben Affleck's character plays like a corporate espionage guy where he takes somebody else's stuff, kind of re-engineers it or reverse engineers it, makes something better out of it, and then he gets his memory wiped when they sell off to the company that hired him to do it. So then he has no recollection of basically stealing all the other corporate secrets and then making something better. And he gets asked by Aaron Eckhart's character to do a 3-year program where he's going to then erase his mind but be set for life. And at the end of it, he's supposed to be super rich, but he doesn't. He gets all his stuff back and he has no money. He has no memory, and he has to try to reverse engineer from the stuff that he was given what happened and what happened to the money. And you kind of figure it out along the way. And I really did enjoy this one. And as far as sci-fi flicks go, this is up there for me. Now, here's something that I've wanted it in my collection for a while. And when it first came out, it wasn't a day one for me. And then it turned into, if I spend the full price on this now, $30 for a 4K movie is pretty much standard. But on a movie that I'm the only one in the house that watches, and it gives my wife nightmares. My youngest is just a little too young for it right now. So the only time I can actually watch the movie is at certain times when they're sleeping or not around. And it turns into, do I need that $30 movie or do I not? And I finally pulled the trigger. This is something that came out a long time ago, but I still paid the higher price for it. And we're talking about Bride of Chucky. I absolutely love this. And it still came with a slipcover, which I'm kind of surprised that, for a Scream Factory through Amazon, still getting a slipcover. I don't know how, it never really happens to me that way. So maybe this didn't sell all that well. I don't really know. But as far as all the Chucky movies go, all the Child's Play movies, this for me is one of my all-time favorite horror comedies. After revisiting it, I just thought this was an all-around superb transfer, great picture, great sound. Absolutely love it. Love the fact that the discs have artwork on them as well. Just the bare minimum that Scream Factory does on these releases, I think is just okay. I think it's great. I don't hate it. And like I said before, I think this is just the bare minimum most companies should follow. A little bit of artwork on the disc, some interior artwork if there's a Blu-ray with a see-through. I just kind of like all that stuff. And something I've always appreciated about Scream Factory is no big ugly banner here. So you have it on the slipcover, but not on the disc. And that's something they've always done and something I've always appreciated. All right, the next one here is something that it's a sequel. And this is something when it came out, I thought was pretty special because we didn't always get a sequel. It wasn't guaranteed. Like now, reboots, remakes, sequels, that's pretty much guaranteed. An original film is something that you're not going to get. At the time when it came out, if you were going to get a sequel, more than likely it was going to probably be in your horror genre. And so we're talking about Poltergeist 2. Now, this is a great follow-up to the first one. But then the 4K transfer on this, I thought was incredible. I think they did an excellent job. Great picture, great sound. Absolutely love this film. And for me, this is something that, it wasn't just a rehashing of the first one, which most sequels are. But this one here, it was new, but then it also kind of felt the same. And it just had a nice vibe to it, and I really always enjoyed this. But the very first time I saw a trailer for this, all the tools started attacking, those special effects. When I was a kid, I thought they were great. When I saw it for the first time, when I saw the film, when I was a teenager, I thought they were great. And then recently, when I rewatched this 4K, it just brought all those memories back, and I thought it was great too. I absolutely love it. And the practical effects, the special effects, they show up so much better most of the time on these 4K transfers. I just think this is really, really awesome. Now, the next one here is something that it came out in the 90s, and I kind of always passed on it because the movie poster itself just wasn't for me. We're talking about Jack Frost. Now, that original movie poster just kind of was off-putting. I knew what I was getting into, or so I thought, and I thought it lent more into the slasher horror genre and not as fun. Now, this is a horror comedy, definitely a dark comedy. I love the costume design on the snowman. And so Jack Frost is something that I highly recommend if you like horror comedies. But it's campy, it's goofy, and it's just an all-around fun time. I really enjoyed this one. But that original movie poster, I thought it was going to lean more into the serious B movie slasher. And so it wasn't going to be as funny and stuff like that. And that's not for me. I can be a horror hound at times, but like all that gore and blood and guts just for the sake of it usually isn't my bag. But this one here was a fun time. If anything else, if you're going to watch this movie, Shannon Elizabeth has a bathtub scene in this one, and it's something that's kind of memorable. This is something that, as I'm trying to collect every single version of Leon and The Fifth Element, I actually have quite a few of them in this pile. And this is something that somebody told me was the very best version of this movie. So I jumped on it, and I got this out of print limited edition set from France, and it's a really incredible box set. Now, it comes with all kinds of extras and tchotchkes and stuff that most people don't care about, and normally I don't either. But like I said, I'm trying to collect every single version of this movie, And in this, it has a pretty epic steelbook. And now I've said before also, I stopped really collecting steelbooks, but it comes inside this case and it's protective. This is limited edition. There was only like 1,000 of these, I believe. And so I have a really low number on there, but it's a very limited edition, something that not everybody's going to have. Most of the time it sits on the shelf. I've watched it. I do think it's an incredible image. I don't know if it's necessarily the best version, but it's really up there. And so I have a few more to go through because I have been collecting and adding a few more of these to find out which one is the best. But this is definitely really phenomenal. And so this is the steelbook that it comes with, just super shiny and ridiculous. Absolutely love that. And the attention to detail on here. You have the multiple discs with artwork on the inside, which if you're a steelbook collector, you know how that is. But it's just a cityscape, so nothing crazy, really enjoyable on that. There is a DVD version of this that has this. So this DVD here with the taxi cab and the checkered and her, that's what it has on the DVD cover. It's the taxi cab with the checkers. That's one I'm trying to get as well. I don't have it yet, but looking for that one. And it does have instead of a J card, it has a pretty slim piece of paper and it's covered in French writing. So if you can read French or use your phone to translate it, you can do that. But it just has all the information on there. But I kept it because of the barcode. It's easy to scan that way. But then it also comes with a nice booklet, has all kinds of information. And again, this is all in French, but you can easily translate that with your phone. And it has really awesome artwork that I don't necessarily know if I've seen it all. It has some background scenes, some photos, stuff. Again, I haven't ever seen this. So this is a nice add to the collection. On top of having that awesome steelbook, and you have some really nice extras inside here. Now, I know that extras and tchotchkes and all that extra fluff is not for everybody, but on certain sets, and especially since I am trying to collect every single version of this movie, I don't mind having this stuff, and some of it I have actually taken out. There was a keychain. There's a keychain that came with it, and so you have this like really nice metal keychain from the movie, something that's just really nice. And then this is something that I've had before, but this one is actually metal. So you have the Lilo Dallas Multipass. It's metal, and it doesn't come out, but I have a plastic one that I've had for years. And so this was inside here, which added a little bit of weight to the whole entire thing. But then you have this box, and so it's just the mail from the movie. I thought that was just a nice touch, and that's what I like about all this stuff. Is again, I know it's not for everybody, but it's the extras that it just kind of adds a little bit to the entire experience. And if I had a nice display case where I could put all this stuff out in like a nice display, I'm going to do that. And thinking about when we move and I get a bigger room, if that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this one up and have it really displayed nicely. Once you open this up and you take all the stuff out of here, you have stuff that most people don't care about. You have some stickers and that type of stuff. We have images from the movie, almost like a program that you'd get if you actually went to this concert. And the Flossed in Paradise brochure. Really enjoy that. Some patches. And again, this is just stuff that's not necessary, but the little touches I just think are really nice. So you have the Zorg card. You have a poster from the Steelbook, so I'm going to get that framed. And all these art cards, again, they're not really for everybody, but because this is one of my favorite movies, I'm going to either get this framed and try to display this in a shadow box with all the stuff. It has all these like posters or prints from the movie. So you have all this different stuff. So it's just really nice to have if, it's one of your favorite movies. So the storyboards here, they're pretty epic. They look like a comic book. Really enjoy that. The thing that made me laugh the hardest about this entire collection of everything you're getting was the book of matches. So it has one match, and it's spent. Comes with a spent match. Now this little tchotchke prop, whatever, it's cheap. This probably cost like a few pennies or whatever. But to have it and have a nice little display, I just think it's fun. And again, it's not for everybody, but I just like all the little bit of touches and the stuff that they added to this. It just kind of blew my mind. And just the simple fact that it stays in that little box, and so if you remove anything from that box, it's stuck with your steelbook being all slammed around in there, but really like that. It sits on the shelf really nicely, and like I said, this is out of print. It was hard to get. It was kind of overpriced, but I think the original price on this was also a little bit expensive. Now, the next one here is a UK import, and this is a 4K Basic Instinct. I really enjoyed this one. I think Studio Canal did the transfer on this. Now, there is something to note. If you've never seen this movie before, and this is the only way you've seen it, the picture looks incredible. I think the picture on this is amazing, and this was shot in film back in the day, so the transfer on this, I think, is superb. Now, there is something to note that just how they are on the cover, there is this like steely blue wash over the entire film, and it was noticeable to me because my memory of the movie and the scenes, even though some of those darker scenes were kind of dark, it just had this like blue, kind of steely blue wash over the entire thing, and comparing it to my old VHS, it does. So they did something with the color grading, they amped it up, and while it looks great, I don't think it's the same as it always ever was. And I think that's kind of a trait that Studio Canal does. And I don't know if that's something that they do because once they remaster it, they have the rights to that master. I'm not really sure how that all works. I don't know if I would have noticed if I had never seen the movie before, but it's something that really kind of stood out to me. I enjoy the film, and if you've never seen this one, Michael Douglas is a cop, Sharon Stone is an author, and she kind of lives this rock star lifestyle, drugs and sex and rock and roll. And the opening scene is horrific, and she gets blamed, she gets pinned, the murder gets pinned on her because it's pretty much word for word in her book exactly how this murder takes place. And so they instantly blame her, but at the same time instantly know that it could be a copycat, and so why would she commit the murder? So either she did it or she's being framed, and Michael Douglas tries to get close to her to figure that out. But then, as you see on the cover, they get a little too close. And this is something that, even when I saw it the first time when I was a teenager, I thought it was really good. And I mean, obviously, I was a teenager, so I was paying attention to more of the other scenes. But the story I thought was fun. I enjoyed the twist, and revisiting this on the 4K, it was just a great overall experience. I think this is the best the movie's ever looked. Like I said, I do think there is that steely blue wash over it, and so the color grade is different. That's just my 2 cents. Other than that, great scene, and there's the infamous leg crossing scene, which everyone's talked about to death, and it's been made fun of even, but if you've never seen the movie, that's where that's from. So the next one here is something that I knew I wanted. I got rid of my DVDs right away, and I couldn't tell you the last time I actually saw them because the way my little one was, it hit that right time where I didn't want her watching it, and so I just kind of hadn't really seen the movies in a while. But they announced the movies. I ordered them they announced the movies. I got rid of my DVDs right away, and I forgot to pre-order them, and unfortunately, I never got the films. I was really looking forward to it. They sold out super fast. January came faster than I even could expect. And so then trying to track these movies down, the very first one here was sitting at the $100 to $150 price tag on eBay. And that's pretty much where it is. Now you can get the standard version of this, no problem. But we're talking about Conan the Barbarian in the chunky box set. And for me, I finally pulled the trigger. I got one, and it was a little bit pricey. It wasn't as bad as some of the other ones, but I ended up getting an opened used one, and I paid probably about double what it would have been if I got this in the store day one. So it was kind of like a gut punch because I knew I wanted it and should have pre-ordered it back then. And for anybody that has said pre-ordering is a waste of time or it's a waste of money, it's a waste of money not to pre-order if it's something that you absolutely want. Now, I understand how pre-orders can get out of control because you spend all that money, you don't have the film right away. I can totally understand that. But if it's something like this where I knew I was going to get no matter what, getting it ahead of time and saving some money and having that guaranteed version, that's the way you're going to save your money and totally worth it. Now, this film itself, I absolutely love it. I think the transfer on this was absolutely incredible. And now I'm not really sure what the community thinks about this, but the few reviewers that I've heard talk about it give it nothing but praise. I totally fine. I agree with you. That's perfectly great. But this movie here, it was shot on film, and there doesn't seem to be any DNR or any like digital fixing of this. There's film grain throughout the film, and in different areas, the Dolby Vision enhances the picture and kind of mutes a little bit of it so it's not so loud and in your face. But from scene to scene, there's scenes that are just absolutely perfect, and then the next scene has some film grain, usually in the sky or whatnot. And that doesn't bother me. I think this picture is absolutely incredible, but I know it bothers a lot of people, and there's one reviewer specifically that complained about Goodfellas, yet they praised this movie. And now Goodfellas, their problem with it was all the film grain. And so for me, I'm not really sure what they were saying, or if it's just people on the internet are just a copy of a copy of a copy.
Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
And they don't have an original opinion of their own. But this movie here, something that I grew up watching, I absolutely love it. And I love the 4K transfer on this. I think it's amazing. And the only way they would have been able to get rid of that film grain would be some heavy DNR and some digital fixing. And even if they had did that, it wouldn't have bothered me. But I don't mind the film grain. I think it's great, and I like that film look. In a movie like this, I think if they did any DNR, people would complain and be very upset about it. And so I don't know if you're going to please everybody, but so far I've heard no complaints of this film, but I kind of think it's funny that other films that have this same kind of look get complained about. But I think this is just top notch. Great extra features. It came with a poster. Now I took the poster out. I'm going to get it framed. I stuck the J card in here. It kind of fills that gap so everything stays in there pretty solid. It comes with a book with production pictures and some information on the film. And I haven't dived into all of that yet, but I will. And I'm looking forward to getting the sequel in the same kind of chunky box set. But I love that artwork, and I think it's just really incredible. Now, the next one here is something out of one of my favorite boutique Blu-ray labels, Imprint Films out of Australia. Now, this is their Asia line, which I always kind of chuckle to myself. But when they say Asia, you kind of always assume or think of this little pocket of the entire
Continent.
And so it's like saying physical media. People talk about these home videos here, talking about physical media, when that really means a book, a video game, a newspaper, a magazine. It encompasses a lot more than just movies. So it's the same thing for me. So I chuckle when they says Imprint Asia, and it only means this specific group of people. But I digress. This right here, Hero, is one of my all-time favorite kung fu films, foreign film. I love this movie. I had it on the Blu-ray for the longest time. And so this chunky box set, you're getting two versions of the film. So this one here, I believe, is just the theatrical version, but all the special features and everything that are on this did make it over here, and I do believe it's the exact same transfer. I don't believe there's any new restoration on this. I think it's the same. But the picture quality is pretty awesome. I really enjoyed the experience, and even though it's a film that I revisit often, usually once a year, I've never had the extended version, so that's what's inside. And you have two different versions. Love the artwork on here. It's much different than what you're getting on the box. And so I absolutely love that. Oh, I forgot to turn this around too. So that's the other side of the box. Just really enjoyable. But you have two versions of the film, the extended cut, director's cut, and the theatrical. But the special features on this, yeah, this one here is the 1080p presentation of the original US theatrical cut. So that's what this one is. And this one is the director's cut. If you've never seen Hero, it's just a great film. Jet Li's character rises up to defy the Emperor and unite a nation, and it is just really great. I think the surround sound on this is just really incredible, and there's no like extra Dolby Atmos or modern surround sound, but what they had, that original, whatever that original DTS was. Yeah. That original DTS master audio, I think, is just perfect. The arrow scene, which you see on the back here, flying through, I think has always been top notch for me. And this is something that I've always used to calibrate my surround system. It's just really absolutely incredible. There's rain coming from the ceiling and my height speakers. You have just really soft and then all of a sudden loud, intense fight scenes. Just a really good overall experience watching this film. There's really no reason to upgrade from this unless you're into getting the better packaging or you want that director's cut. Other than that, if you're fine with the theatrical cut, that's the exact same thing you're getting on this version of it. But this right here, I think for me is just top notch, and I'm going to look forward to diving into that director's cut. There's, I think, 10 minutes of extra footage, and that might not be a lot for some or worth it for some, but for me, this is probably one of my all-time favorite kung fu films. I'm going to be diving into this. The next three here are part of something that's completely defunct, out of print, something that kind of came and went. I didn't even know it existed until I went down this journey of trying to collect some of my favorite films. Sony put out this Supreme Cinema series line, and so these three films, I think they only ever put out four, but we have Dracula, The Fifth Element, and Leon. So absolutely love it. The nice little touches that they put on here. You can see some spot glossing on the spine there. Just really, really awesome. And then these, they're like made of plexiglass. Just really, really sharp. And this is just a standard Blu-ray. I don't think there's anything special on here, but I think these Blu-rays did have transfers from the 4K scans. I'm not really sure because I got them as is. There's no extra information on them. This is how I got them. And they weren't super cheap either. So just, it was one of those things, trying to collect every single version. I thought it was really unique. And I think every single one of them does have an Atmos track, which is kind of cool. But the Blu-rays just look really great. The only thing is, for me, it is a collector piece. It's something that's not going to get used all that often, but it has a little booklet here with some information. And I don't want to really press this out and bend the cards, but it's just really cool. I know it's not for everybody, but the Blu-ray itself comes in a little sleeve, and that I'm not a huge fan of. You can easily scratch the disc, but like I said, for me, this is a collector's piece that's going to be sitting on a display, and it's just going to sit like that. I'm glad to have these in the collection. It's something that I didn't know existed, and I probably would have bought back in the day if I had known about these. So I don't know how this came and went, and I didn't know anything about it, but as I found them, I had to have them, and they're just fun. They're unique. Not everybody has one. And the same thing for this Fifth Element set here. Now, the back is that. And again, you have the spot glossing right there from the stones, which is just really cool. And you have some gold leaf on the lettering right there. These are something, I only bring them up, and I know it's out of print and you're not going to be able to get these brand new. But if you're a collector and this is the type of stuff you're into, this is what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking for those unique limited edition sets. People buy this stuff on eBay all the time. Tons of these were sold as I was looking for these. So this is something that collectors do look for. This is not for your everyday $5 bin purchase or something you found at the thrift store. Maybe you'll find it at the thrift store, but this is something that, it's for that collector. It's definitely a display piece. And they only ever put out 4, I think, because that's all I could ever find. But 3 of them are my all-time favorite movies. And so we have Bram Stoker's Dracula, just another nice one. And the spot gloss on there is dripping blood. Just a really awesome set there. And again, it opens up nicely. And you have images from the movie, some background information. Just really, really cool. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen these before, or they were talking about them, but I just don't even remember hearing about these ever. Just something really cool for the shelf, and I'm glad to have them in the collection. All right, now the next one here is Mute Witness. This is a 4K out of Arrow Video, and this is the Arrow Video US version of this. And this is a movie that when it came out back in the 90s, I remember seeing it. I think my mom rented it, and we watched it on family movie night. This is not a family movie by any means. It's a rated R, pretty much a hard R, and the entire film revolves around a mute special effects person that works on a movie, and they're this group of people. They're working on a movie in another country, and the mute actually sees pretty much a snuff film. So it's like one of those things where, and they kind of show it like it look like you're making an adult video is what it looks like they're making, and then all of a sudden like the knife comes out and it's a little bit wild and she sees the entire thing. But then the people that were making the film, they kind of felt that they were being watched. And so they're trying to find her. She's running around trying to hide. And then they kind of catch up with her. They realize that she witnessed it. And so now they're trying to get her. Some police are involved. Some mob are involved. It's like a whole thing. And there's some twists and turns. And it's a fine film. Now this wasn't really a one and done, but it's something I hadn't watched in 20 or maybe 30 years. I'm not sure when this even came out. But then I kind of forgot about it till this one was announced, and so it was kind of on my radar. I picked it up at the half price sale. For me, it would fit a perfect Saturday afternoon vibe where it's like, it's not a great movie, but it's not a bad movie either. It's one of those where the rewatchability isn't really there for everybody, but it works as a nice Saturday afternoon film. And, I didn't mind revisiting it. But the transfer on this, I thought the 4K was really great. The sound was really great. It's just it's a film that's really not for everybody, but I enjoyed revisiting it. Now, here's a movie that I've been watching since I was a kid, and for some reason, I never had it in my collection. And picking this up, I think this was on one of those like Amazon deals where it was like $10 or $13, and it was King Ralph. Really enjoyed this, and I'd say all the time, I'm not a slipcover person. I don't generally care, but I kind of like how they did the slipcover here to look like the old VHS tape. It has that coming out. It's something that's kind of signature to this line of Mill Creek videos. But I like the fact that the cover art on the Blu-ray is completely different than this, because this is going to go in a box in storage, but this is going to sit on the shelf like this. And I just I appreciate it. Now, you're not getting anything here special. It's pretty much bare bones. You have some artwork on the disc, which is a nice plus, but it would be nice if there was some artwork on the inside. I understand that that costs a little bit extra, but it's just those nice touches. I think the price point on this movie, it completely works for what you're getting. But this is just a fun overall film. It's something that, like I said, revisiting it, it reminded me of watching this when I was a kid. But if you've never seen this, pretty much the entire royal family gets wiped out all at once. And John Goodman's character, who's an American, is the last heir to the throne. And then so he has to go to England to become king. And it's a culture shock. There's a culture difference. There's some laughs there. And this is another just fun Saturday afternoon film. This is one that I made a video not too long ago about talking about DVDs that I absolutely love, but they don't have a Blu-ray. And in that conversation, somebody had watched the video and they commented how this movie right here is something they wish had a Blu-ray. And I looked because I love the film and I knew I had the DVD, but I was like, it doesn't have a Blu-ray, and it did. So I told him right away that it did have a Blu-ray. I ordered it right then and there, and it came in. I watched it, and it's just a super fun time. Like there's, from the DVD to the Blu-ray, you have an uptick in quality. It's definitely a better version of it. Absolutely love this. And we're talking about just one of the guys. If you've never seen this one, Terry Griffith is the girl in the picture. She tries to enter this contest to win a scholarship in this writing, and she thinks that if she was a man that she would have got the scholarship, she would have been promoted, she would have gotten the praise that she needed. So then she has this whole scheme while her parents go on vacation to pretty much cut her hair, dress like a boy, go to a different school, turn in a paper, and then get everything that she wanted. Along the way, she finds out that the guy that she was seeing isn't the guy for her. She ends up falling in love with this other guy, but that guy thought that she was a guy the whole entire time, and it's just kind of funny. It's one of those situational comedies, just a great overall fun time. This is a movie that I found back in the day on a Saturday afternoon, and so it's a perfect Saturday afternoon flick. It's kind of my favorite, but this one here, it's just perfect 80s comedy. You have the nudity, you have the sex-crazed brother, and so it's just one of those just really fun movies. Really always enjoyed this one. And this one here, it's not giving you anything crazy, nothing special. You have the simple art on the disc and then no artwork on the inside. But as a film itself, I think the transfer is fine. I think the disc is great. And that uptick in quality from the DVD to this, totally worth getting. And so just one of the guys is highly recommended. So the very next one here is something that it came out in the 80s, but I didn't see it till the 90s. I was a teenager, and it's something that I never really had in my collection until now. And after revisiting it and like remembering like all the subject matter that this movie has, and it fits in today's society with the kids in schools and stuff, it's a little bit of a wild movie. But at the time, this type of stuff was pretty much unheard of. And so I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it more. If this was my first time watch on it and being that close to home with modern day schools and stuff that's happening, I don't necessarily know if I would appreciate the film as much. We're talking about Heathers. I think this is an overall great film and a nice commentary on society at the time. I thought it was just a really incredible. But like I said, I don't necessarily know if I would enjoy the film like I do now after all the stuff that has been going on in schools. Because this film here, if you don't know about it, uh, Christian Slater's character falls in love with Winona Ryder's character, but at the same time, they start bumping off schoolmates and then making it look like accidents, and then everything that's going on around that kind of it sits a little too close to home with what's going on in schools today. And so I don't think this is for everybody, but in 1985, I think this was just a nice commentary on society and something that I always really enjoyed. I enjoy the entire presentation of this movie, the spot glossing on the cover there, and the 4K presentation of this I thought was really incredible. And you have, with Arrow Video, as always, you have the reversible artwork here. Comes with a poster and a booklet about the movie. Just an incredible package design, and just something that, again, I know it's not for everybody, but this for me was always just a great Saturday afternoon movie. Something that I'm pretty sure I found on a Saturday afternoon, because it's not a movie that my mother would have ever approved of. And so this is something that it just kind of always stuck with me, that I always really enjoyed. And I'm not sure why I never owned the film, but this 4K was totally worth the pickup. The next one here is a Criterion that I picked up during the sale, and it's something that I've tried to get many times going to my Barnes & Noble. Then they finally had it available at the sale price on Amazon, so I pulled the trigger, grabbed it, and glad to have it in the collection finally. I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. We're talking about the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio. And so, one, it's a Criterion. I love adding those to the collection. But this is a movie, and I'm not sure if I don't know how I feel about it, because, one, I'm glad that it's not just a retelling of the Disney version in the exact same way. The Pinocchio story, I'm pretty sure, is 100% in public domain. And so the story you can just retell and reimagine however you want, with using some of the things. But growing up with the Disney version of it, and that was the very first movie I ever saw as a kid. I remember being like 2 or 3, and my parents bought a TV, a VCR, and then Pinocchio. And that was the very first thing I had ever saw. I don't know if my connection to that and really enjoying that Disney film is why I kind of didn't feel, how I didn't, because it wasn't the same. And so I don't know if that's why I had the feelings about this movie. But I think it's incredible. I think it's an incredibly well-made movie. I am a Guillermo del Toro fanboy, and so I love everything he does. And I do love a lot of this film, but it's just that whole story of Pinocchio I associate so highly with the Disney one. I don't know where this fits into my world. The film is great. The picture is awesome. The 4K on this is totally worth getting. I'm sure it's just a small uptick from the Blu-ray, but for me, this is the only version I've ever seen, and I just thought it was all incredible. Visually stunning. Guillermo del Toro, for me, never fails to disappoint, but it is that my connection really is that original Pinocchio story, and I don't know if I can wrap my head around a new version. And that's just my own personal take. But this is something that I know I'm going to revisit more, and I'm going to give it another shot and see how I feel in a little while. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, because I was not put off by the film by any way, and I really enjoyed what I saw. It's just, again, it just always, not feeling generic, but it felt like, if somebody offers you a Coke and somebody offers you a Pepsi, the differences are there, and there's fans of each. And so I'm not sure how I feel about this. But that, as far as that goes, I highly recommend it if you're into Guillermo del Toro, you're collecting Criterions, you like this movie, this version of it is the very best. And so I just like that. And then, again, with the little touches that these companies do, this one here is cool, but also it's very fragile. So you have this, you have Pinocchio, and then his nose pops out like this. And if you see, it's just a thin piece of paper that could easily be torn off or bent or damaged. But at the same time, I think it's really cool. It's a nice touch. And if you're buying a Criterion anyway, these are collector's pieces. They're stuff that, you shouldn't be handled by children anyway. They're more expensive. You have the book, you have the art on the discs, which is something that I always love. But with this, I have a 7-year-old who immediately saw this and wanted to open up the nose. And so, like, when you say that you kids probably shouldn't touch this, sometimes you have no control over it. Before I could even, like, as I was opening this, my kid loves movies just as much as I do, and the very first thing she did was grab it and try to open it. And not that I got mad or anything, but this is just very flimsy and something to note. Now, if you don't have kids, you don't have that problem, whatever. If I had known about it ahead of time, I don't necessarily know if I would have paid all that money for it, or if I just would have asked for it for like a birthday gift or something. That's just kind of how I am about that. Other than that, I love the artwork, and again, that's just kind of how I feel about it. I think it's great, but I think I just have that attachment to that original too much. The next few here I have are versions that I have multiple versions in the house. They're movies that I'm trying to collect every single version for, and movies that I just really love, and I'm trying to get that updated packaging or the limited edition box set. Again, I talk about it because the collector community, the home video community, everybody that watches these videos, they tend to be split. People, about half of the community really loves the limited edition collector big box sets, and the other half of the community just wants the cheapest version possible, and I totally understand it. I'm kind of in both worlds. I still buy VHS tapes for $1. I buy DVDs for $1 or $2, but I also like some of these limited edition collector pieces. And some of these here, they're hard to get or they're out of print, but they're still available. And if you only think one version of the movie is available and that's it, you never know this stuff exists, but you might want it. And so the very first thing here I got is something out of Japan, and it's from Leon. Again, one of my all-time favorite movies, but I love the spot gloss on here. I think it's really, really cool. Now, this version of the movie, the box that they use has like some kind of satiny feel, and you can kind of hear that in the microphone. But the way this box is, it's one of those ones that kind of absorbs your fingerprints. And so I wish I had known that when I got it, because I would have handled it differently, and I would have put it in like some kind of protective sleeve, because it is mostly for a display piece. This version of the movie, it does use the Dolby Vision on here, and as I'm checking all the versions that I own, this one here I think has the most realistic colors and color grade to that original VHS or original DVD that I had. An absolutely incredible picture. Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, just like most of the other films. But this here in the box set, you're getting two versions of the film in separate Blu-rays. And then the J card that it came with is kind of neat, but it's all in Japanese. And at some point it says for Japan only in English on here somewhere. But just something that, some images there, but everything else is in Japanese. And I keep that inside. But the two versions of the movie, I think, are really incredible. It's something that I've never really seen before. And again, even though I've seen those images, how they did the artwork and display, you have the exact same cover on the back, same images, same writing. The different versions, so this one here, one of them is the theatrical and one of them is an extended cut, and I haven't figured out which one because I watched them both, but I haven't figured out which one. So there's the Blu-ray and the 4K, and you have, when you take these out, you have some images from the movie on the inside. Absolutely love this. The attention to detail is top-notch, and it's just another version I like. And if I were to only have one version, this would probably be one of the top contenders. I love the picture. I love the package design. The only thing for me is I would have loved if the material they used on the box, and I love the green. I think that's just really cool. But the material they used on the box, if it didn't have that, you can see, kind of absorbs your fingerprints a little bit. If it didn't have that, it would be perfect. This next version here, from the same exact company, also out of Japan, The Fifth Element, and I've showed this off before, but this is one of the newer ones. I think this is an incredible image. Japanese version, I think it's really great. Amazing picture, top notch. I think the color grade is really perfect, but it has that same kind of thing, but it doesn't leave the fingerprints for whatever reason. I don't know what material it is, but it has that nice satin feel. Just really, really nice. And no matter what I've done to it, I'm not going to get my fingers dirty, but what I've done to it, touching it, I've never had an issue like I did with the black one. It just might be the color is what it's absorbing. I'm not sure, but this is just really incredible. And I love the fact that it has this like silver yet rainbow leaf in there. You can see that and see how it kind of like rainbow shines. It's just a really unique piece. And these can all be found on Amazon and imported right from Japan. They're a little bit on the pricier side, but you are getting an import. And it's just really cool. And because they come from Japan, they're region 1, region A, they work in US players. You don't have to have a special player to play the Japanese versions. Comes with a booklet with all that information. There's the J card. And you're going to have that same image on the back as the J card. But then the front is kind of cool. It's just really, again, unique, and it's a different culture. So you have a different way of showing off the artwork. And it's something I just like. I like it because it's something I've never seen before. And with this here, the version, you have an image on the disc. You have some, it comes with a postcard. It's something that I don't know what that is in the Japanese culture, but this is not the first time I've gotten something. I bought a VHS tape that had postcards in it as well. It's just something, I don't know, it's kind of unique. It's a little collector piece, or you could use it. You can actually put a postage stamp on the back and send this off. It's just kind of neat. But the most iconic scene from the entire movie, you have that right there, and that's your interior. Just a really enjoyable image. Absolutely love this entire set. And that's what's inside the booklet there. You have some images from the movie. Then obviously it's in Japanese. But you can easily translate that again with your phone. But as far as like being a collector piece and something that most people don't have, I really enjoy this version, and it would definitely be a top contender if I could only have one version. This would be right up there. I do like the French orange version, but this one here, it just has like a nice sleek design. Has a nice sleek design that you don't really have with a lot of other ones. And I love the slip box on this. Just really overall sharp. All right, the next one here is something that when it came out, it kind of knocked my socks off. It was definitely something that was like a little bit of an older teenager. And it's something that it kind of took me from, just liking movies into cinema and being able to have different conversations surrounding it, how movies were shot, and just kind of diving into like dramas, deep subject matter movies, things that just kind of weren't for most kids my age. Like most kids my age could care less about these types of movies, but this right here opened a door to so much, and pretty much might have started this entire journey of just loving cinema. We're talking about American Beauty. Now, this version here is a very limited edition that came out of Korea, and this is from my favorite Korean company so far, Nova Media. But this is something that's limited edition. It's out of print. It's hard to find. It wasn't on the cheap side at all, but it's really neat. I love the slip box on this, and it's just something. It's one of the movies that I'm not, going crazy like some of my other ones where I have to collect every version. But as I have found some of the other versions, I think the packaging is unique enough where I have picked them up. But this is something that I had to have in the collection. I had only this original Blu-ray, and even though it's not something that got revisited all that often, and I think the image on here is perfectly fine, and I think it's the exact same disc. I think it's the same version. The only reason I have this, it's the upgrade on the package and all that stuff. But this is just a great film, and having this upgrade on the package and having it a limited edition, it's just a nice version. And over the years, I have really appreciated the different packaging on this. And fun fact, if you didn't know, everyone thinks that this is Mira Savari's stomach. It's not. Apparently, it's the girl from Mad Men. She said it that it was hers, and that's just kind of something that it was a fun fact that I didn't know. But this is why I started collecting the packaging on it, because it's just something unique. And so that's obviously another iconic image from the movie. But as you go, and I've never had a slipcover VHS box. I know Titanic got one because I recently got that. But when I found this at the time, it was the most unique thing I'd ever seen. And yes, sometimes older movies were so long, they'd put them on two VHS tapes, or the second VHS tape might have special features. But this is something that I've had in my collection for a while, and I used to absolutely love watching this version of it, but then I picked up this, and this is definitely my go-to now, something I really enjoy. And as you open this up, you have some artwork there, and I think that this artwork here might have worked better on this, because this is something that we see all the time. It's on every single thing. Now this is pretty much the seller of the art here. I don't think if this was on that cover, this would have been a huge selling point for most people. But this here, something we see it all the time. I would have probably preferred it, on the booklet, and then have this image on the booklet, just a little different. But it's just a personal preference. I think the entire thing is incredible, and it's limited edition. But the version here, it's like I said, I think it's the same as the Blu-ray we already got. No difference on the transfer. You have some artwork on the disc, or even this. This artwork here would have worked great on the disc. And then you have the other iconic dream scene there from the movie. Just incredible. So this is something that I said I pointed out because I love collecting this stuff. And I know that these special limited edition collector sets are not for everybody, but this is something that it is for some people. And so if it's for you, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you to all the channel members. And if you would like to become a channel member, you can do that for as little as $1. And you can be involved in all the background stuff that we have going on behind the scenes. With that, watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.